The 2023 United Nations Climate Change Conference beginning tomorrow in Dubai. Well, Biden has gotten in trouble with his left for planning to skip the summit. The White House appears to be recruiting Kamala Harris to go in his place for damage control. Now, Farhana Yamin, a British lawyer and activist known as the architect of the Paris Climate Accords, is already giving a sneak peek at what to expect at this summit. Take a listen.
Realize at some point, there was no point me being a lawyer and sticking to laws. It was better to break the law and show how little the law was doing, in this country of all countries. We are benefiting from 300 years of resilience based on colonialism and based on very deep pockets, which resulted from the exploitation and appropriation of other people's resources and assets. And they rightly are questioning that, and we need to have a response to that.
I feel like clapping,
just
frankly.
trying to now deal with climate change without dealing with decolonization, without dealing with reparations. You cannot do repair without reparations.
She's admitting it. It's all tied together. The climate agenda can't happen without decolonization. And with the Hamas terror attacks and massacre last month, we learned what is meant when the left says decolonization. Now, as many are pointing out, like author Peachy Keenan, they're really starting to admit the truth. The climate agenda is to turn the entire first world into the third world because, quote-unquote, fairness, a perverted and distorted version of fairness, I might add. Joining us now to discuss is Daniel Turner, the founder and executive director of Power the Future. Daniel, thanks for being back tonight.
Yeah, it's great to be with you.
Great. So does that about sum it up? The climate agenda will only impoverish us, take us backward technologically, and therefore enrich and empower the elites who are behind it.
Absolutely. It's great to see them be so honest. We just need to realize who we're dealing with. It's one enormous Marxist agenda, and whether it's about climate, whether it's a couple years ago when it was Antifa and BLM, whether it's a radical trans agenda, regardless of how cultural Marxism manifests itself, it is the same absolute philosophy, and it's why it has to be defeated. They're doing it under the guise of saving the planet, but John Kerry would be just as happy to lock you up for COVID violations as he would climate violations, because it's all the same Marxist principles. They're just using different tactics to achieve them.
That it is. I mean, look how many times that we've talked about the gas stoves, where we say, well, the electric grid that we currently have, it can't support having everyone go to electric vehicles, and most of us, we can't afford it anyways. What about the food supply chain issues that we're having? They're telling us that we can't eat meat. I mean, on and on it goes, and we say we either can't afford this or we can't sustain this. It's not sustainable for us, and it seems like a lot of these climate left-wing activists go, that's the point. It's supposed to hurt.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be punishment. They listen to us, bring up all these issues, and to them they're going, that's not a bug, that's a feature of the system. Perhaps that's why the World Economic Forum, remember, it's you will own nothing and you will be happy. So does that about sum it up, compared to what we just heard from the British activist lawyer who says, yeah, I break the laws, and yeah, it's gonna hurt. We need to decolonize you.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we cannot ignore the fact that 40,000 estimated folks are all flying to Dubai for a multi-week conference in one of the world's richest oil nations. And they're telling us that we have to change our lifestyle. For years, they made us and they made your kids go to school on Skype because of a crisis. And here they're saying we have a climate crisis, but they're allowed to gather, right? They're allowed to stay in glorious hotels. I'd love to see the food they're going to eat for the next couple of weeks. So what's the carbon footprint, if that's the metric we're using? What's the carbon footprint of COP28, right? What's the cost? But of course, when you are an elite, you're exempt from those type of metrics. You are more important than the masses, so they'll just ignore all this philosophy. But for the rest of us, absolutely. They want you to ban meat. They want to make that, that's their newest issue. They want to take rid of your gas stove, your gas car. It's an awful lot about control. It really is a Marxist system in that sense, and this is not hyperbolic. It is pure Marxism because it is a centralized, centrally planned economy that uses political goals that does not allow for market forces. The market is not telling you to buy an EV. You are not freely choosing to buy an EV. It is the government. And when you have a central government dictating the economy, you have communism, you have Marxism, and that's been 150 years of failure and misery everywhere it's been tried.